The 20th and the 21st century proved to be the most challenging and far-reaching for the UK. Almost every aspect of British life up to this point changed, and there were certain key areas of society that notably changed during this time. So we'll be looking at certain aspects of the 20th and 21st century. And the first thing we're going to look at is how the British Isles changed militarily. So 2 world wars devastated the economy and the industry of the UK. And this created huge problems for society, workplace environments, relationships with neighbors, and the colonial empire itself. Tactics and strategy for battles evolved over the 2 wars, and a new technology made implementing these tactics a slow and experimental process. We'll also look at the empire itself. So from being the largest empire in the world, during this time period, the UK lost most of its empire. This is due to a variety of factors, but economic loss, lack of resources and manpower to manage the empire contributed heavily to the loss at this time. Also, many countries during this time wanted independence, and the British were seen as a fading superpower. So what would probably have happened eventually was you can describe as accelerated by both of the wars. We'll also look a little bit about the royal power and the influence of the royal family. So during this time, the expectations and the role of the royal family changed in the UK. The royal family made efforts to seem less remote from regular people and take a more active role in society. And this encouraged a sense of connection for many people, but it also encouraged an interest in the personal lives of the royal family. So this is similar to, I guess, TV celebrity culture, and this had a detrimental effect on the royal family members and the public themselves. We'll also look at the changes in attitude to gender, race, and ethnicity. So one of the most fundamental changes in society during this time took place in the attitudes to the role of women in society. During both wars, women did jobs previously done by men, and they did them well. After the wars, many men had died, and this meant that the women continued in these roles. So slowly, British society began to accept equality through the law and in society for both men and women. So as a consequence of the war, the UK allowed people from the former empire to migrate to the UK easier in order to basically rebuild the economy and replace the many men that had died during the war. Therefore, migration was a huge issue as people came from India, Pakistan, Jamaica, etc. And so all these people required new laws, and the new laws were enacted to protect ethnic minorities from, illegal working conditions mainly. We'll also look at the creation of a welfare system. So a welfare system is where this is where the society invited the government into everyday people's lives in a way that was unseen before that time. The government would assume responsibility for a citizen if certain events happened to that person. For example, being unable to work, being injured, or if a person retired, etc. So a welfare system itself is a process of government oversight for the welfare of citizens. The UK currently has one of the most developed welfare states globally, And most of the foundations for this welfare state were being created during this time period. We'll also look at attitude to class. So this is a topic closely linked to the welfare system. Clear class divisions are and were an ever-present issue in British society, more so than most other social issues. The difference between the working class and the upper class is a notable issue for many British people. And it was during this time period that changes were made to make it a more equal society through education, health, and working conditions. The later period of British history involves Britain's identity with itself and its place in the modern world. The collapse of the empire led to development internally of better working conditions for the island itself, but also a union of Britain with its closest neighbours in Europe. So joining the EU meant better trade, increased economic growth, safety, and a place in the decision-making of the continent. So in a way, the mentality of the empire proved both positive and negative in this respect. Decision-making and vast land management with its resources and varying citizen interests are, of course, what the British Empire did well previously. So in a way, the EU was an extension of that skill set. However, the concept of joint management with many other countries proved difficult for some British people to accept, and eventually this led to a somewhat controversial misinformation campaign that led to a vote to leave the EU. The ramifications of leaving the EU are really still being realized today. And as consequential as this was, there's no doubt that the British Empire is a shadow of its former self in centuries previously. So this section will explore not only the collapse of the empire, but also the reshaping of what it means to be British and modern Britain's place in the world.